going to start recording the session, y'all. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share, let's see, I'm going to share our Blackboard page. And okay, so just a heads up, guys, I already put the links for the session tomorrow. So again, the first one here is at 10 a.m., the second one's at 6:30. And let me go into the student mode so that it looks like what you guys would see. Okay, so if you notice right now it says content's not available because it's not going to be available until tomorrow morning, right, or tomorrow evening. Let's see though, what do I have here? Announcements. Okay, so I'm going to click on announcements right here, y'all. And when I click on announcements, I want to make sure you guys can still see that. Yeah, if you can. Okay, so here are announcements. If you haven't yet signed up, here's the sign up sheet. So just click on this link here and it will open up a spreadsheet for you guys. Okay, so it looks like there's already some names on here, but in the event that you have not yet signed up, go ahead and click on that link. Sorry, right here where it says Test 2 sign up sheet, and it'll just take you to the spreadsheet. Just put your name on if you want to do it at 10 or if you want to do it at 6:30. And then I do have the formula sheet right here. So on the formula sheet, guys, to access it, just click these three dots and click on Download Original File, and you'll be able to open up the formula sheet. Okay. So so now that you know where the formula sheet is and where the sign up sheet is, in case you didn't know, let me stop sharing this part right here, and I'm going to share two things with you guys. So the first thing I'm going to share is the formula sheet. And so let me see. Yes, here we go. So it's popping up. So here's the formula sheet for test 2. I have some information about the graph of a quadratic function. How do you find the vertex using the negative b over 2a? And then once you find that, plugging that in to find the second coordinate of the vertex. I have the division algorithm here, remainder theorem, factor theorem, the end behavior of the graph, whether or not it's going to open up to the left or up to the right. It's going to kind of have those, those kind of arrows like you did in the homework problems. How to find the inverse of the function, compound interest formula, continuous interest formula, the logarithm stuff, definition of a logarithm, properties of logarithms, okay, and a little bit about inverses, change of base theorem. Okay, so anyway, all the formulas are right here so you guys can have. So definitely make sure that you have access to the formula sheet, okay? So anywho, all the info is here. And then the other thing I'm going to share is the actual review. And so let me see. Yes, it's popping up right here. So guys, the idea for today was to answer any questions you guys might have out of the review. So if anybody has any particular questions you want me to go over, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to go over any questions you guys might have. So don't be shy. If you know there's a particular question you might have, just tell me, and we'll go over those. Anyone have any questions about anything? Yes, Thomas, go ahead. You can either speak up or you can put it in the chat, whichever is easier for you.
All right, I guess if we can go over this one, number 1, I guess right.
Yeah, we can definitely go over number 1. So guys, for number 1, I want you to notice what it's asking me to do. It says match the equation in column 1 with the description of the parabola that is in the graph in column 2. Okay, so if I was doing this on my math lab, the idea is you'd be able to click on this little thing right here and you'd kind of pull it to like you'd pull this to either number 7, or you'd pull it to number 8, or whatever it happened to be, right? You'd pull each of these little pieces down into the box that applies to each of these equations. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before I actually do number 1, I'm going to stop sharing this, y'all, and I'm going to come back to my formula sheet, because in my formula sheet, it's going to tell me exactly how I'm going to be able to do this. So I want you to notice here in my formula sheet, let me see if this is going to work. There we go. Okay, so here is the equation of my my graph of my quadratic function, right? This is my equation in vertex form, and the vertex is going to be the point h and k, and then it tells me if the number a is positive, the graph opens up, and if the number a is negative, then the graph opens down. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this right here, and this right here actually on my problem number one. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to come back to my review guide, and let's see, here we go. Okay, so the first thing I know is that when we're putting an equation in quadratic form, or in vertex form, I should say, it's going to look like this. And my vertex is the point h and k. And if the number a is greater than 0, that means my graph opens up. And if the number a is less than 0, that means my graph opens down, right? Okay, so first thing we're going to do a little stare and compare. I'm going to look at this equation right here, and I'm going to look at the equation that we have here, okay? And so the first thing I want you to notice is the number a. The number a is the number in front of the parentheses. What's the number in front of our parentheses here? Anybody know? What's the number right in front of those parentheses? Between the equal sign and our parentheses.
Is it 1?
It is 1. Good. So that number 1 is a number that's positive, right? Greater than 0 just means it's positive. Excellent. Less than 0 means it's negative. Okay, so I know that because my number a here is 1, our graph is going to open upward, okay? So we definitely know that already. So guys, when I'm looking at my choices, that tells me that my choices are either going to be this one here or this one here, because those are the ones that open up, okay? Now, the next thing we got to figure out, excellent, doing great so far, is we got to find the coordinates of our vertex. So I want you to notice this part right here, y'all. This has a minus h, but here we have an h. So what that means is whatever sign I have here, I'm going to change that sign, and that'll be the first coordinate of my vertex. The second one here is exactly the same. So when I look at this part here, excuse me, the first number is a positive 4, so I got to change my sign. It's going to become a negative 4. The second number, it doesn't change. So that tells me that our vertex is negative 4, 7, and our graph opens up. So this one right here would kind of get pulled down. Again, if I was doing this on my math lab or my lab, I would grab that piece and I would just kind of pull it down, and it would go into that one. Okay. So we got the first part done. I'll tell you what, we're going to do the same thing for the next one. So just like we did before, the first thing I want to find here, y'all, I want to find my number a. So remember, the number a is the number right in front of my parentheses. So what's the number a in this case?
-1?
Excellent. A is the number -1. Okay, so since it's negative, we know our graph is going to open down, right? And then guys, just like we did before, we're going to look at this piece right here. The first number is always going to, the sign is going to change. So if it's a positive 7, here I'm going to put a -7. The second one always stays exactly the same. So this one here has a vertex of -7 and 4, and the graph opens down. So that would just tell me that this one here would get pulled down right there, right? Okay. And then we're going to keep playing the same game because we're going to do the same thing for number 9. So if we look at number 9 here, what is my number a? What's the number right in front of those parentheses? Anyone know?
-1 again?
Yes, sir. Very good. -1 again, right? Okay, so now let's go ahead, guys. So we've been doing this already. Anybody know what's the coordinates of our vertex going to be? What's the first number going to be? Anyone know?
It'll be -4 and 7.
There you go, negative 4 and 7. Awesome. And because this here was negative, this graph is opening down. So again, I'm going to look for another one opening down. Here it is. Over here, I'm going to circle it in red with negative 4 and 7. And that one's going to go there. And then if we do the last one, so guys, remember, first thing I'm going to do again, I'm going to look at my number A. So our number A is a positive one, which tells me that graph's going to open up. Anybody know the coordinates of the vertex? What are the X and Y coordinates of our vertex here? Anyone know?
Negative 7 and 4.
There you go, you got it. Take it away, negative 7 and 4. So again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, negative 7 and 4, and the graph opens up. So this one right here would get pulled down right there, right? And so guys, the one thing that I really want to emphasize about this problem is the couple of things that I needed to know was when I'm looking at the equation in this form right here, that my vertex happens to be the point H and K. And then the other thing I needed to know is that if A is greater than 0, then my graph opens up. And if my number A is less than 0, then my graph opens down. And I just got to remember that greater than 0 means positive and less than 0 means negative. And just to point something out here, guys, is in doing this part, hold on, my pen's freezing up. Here we go. In doing this piece right here, all I really needed to do was come back and here we go. Use this part here of the formula sheet, right? And so, part of using the formula sheet, and I know sometimes, looking at this, it may not seem as straightforward as that, but that's in essence what it was telling me, right? At least those couple of pieces. Okay, good deal. So let me come back to my review guide and let's see. Go. All right, so that was number 1. Anybody got any other questions? Number 2, number 3, number 9, number 57. Let's see, I think I heard something in the chat. Or maybe not. No, I didn't. Okay. Thomas, question again?
Yes, I would say maybe number 4.
Number 4. Let's take a look at number 4. So I'm going to scroll down here. And here we go. Number 4. Let's see. Let's see. Number 4. Yes, definitely we can do number 4. Okay, so guys, number 4 here says find a quadratic function f having the graph shown. Okay, so let me get my pen. Okay, so guys, in doing this problem here, just like we did a little while ago, I'm going to use the same kind of format here. Oh, come on, pen. Okay, f of x equals a x minus 8 squared plus k, right? Okay, so remember, the vertex is the point H and K. In this case, my vertex is the point 6 and negative 3. Okay, because the vertex is either going to be that low point, so I'm just going to kind of zoom out real quick, y'all. The vertex is either going to be this point down here at the bottom if the graph opens up, or it'll be this point here at the top if the graph opens down, right? Okay, so we know that's our vertex. So the first thing I'm going to do now that we have that, is we're going to start filling in some blanks, okay? So I'm going to write it like this. F of x equals a x minus, we said our vertex was 6 squared, and then this last number is a negative 3, so I'm just going to put a minus 3 right there. Okay, so that's the first part. Now the second part is they give us this extra point here. This extra point here is in the form x and y, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to the equation we have, and everywhere I have an x, I'm going to put a 0, and everywhere I have a y, I put a 0. Now, guys, f of x is the same thing as the number y. So I'm going to put a 0 right there. And x is also the number 0, oops, minus 6 squared minus 3. So now I'm just taking another step and substituting those values. So now that we have that, the third thing I need to do is I need to see what letter do I not know here. And at this point, the letter that I don't know is the letter A. So I'm going to see if I can find the value of A. Okay. So I'm going to write this out. 0 equals A. Let's see. 0 minus 6 is a negative 6 squared minus 3. 0 equals, let's see, negative 6, guys. When I square it, is going to give me a positive 36 with an A minus 3. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and solve for A. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And I'm just going to write it over here. So I'm going to have 3 equals 36 with an A. And now, since I'm trying to get the A by itself, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 36. And A is equal to, I can reduce that right there into 1 over 12. Okay. So far, before I go on, do we have any questions? Or is it making sense on how I'm doing this problem so far at this point? If you got a question, guys, let me know. If not, I'll go ahead and keep going. Okay, so now at this step, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to come back to the problem that we had right here. Okay, and if you notice, here is my A number. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill that number in. I'm going to put the 1 over 12 and then x, oops, x minus 6 squared minus 3. Okay. So, guys, one thing I want you to notice here is I'm going to take my eraser because I'm going to clean up a little bit of this mess right here. Okay, if I look at this graph, would you say that that graph is opening up or opening down? Meaning, does that graph look more like this one, or does it look more like that one? And just to let you know, this is, come on, this is up, and this one here, oh man, this pen is really messing up, is down. So would you say that our graph here is going up or down? What would you all say? And if it helps, guys, think about it like this. The graph goes like this forever. Okay. So would you say that graph is going up or down? Anyone know? Up, right? Okay. Remember we said if the graph opens up, the number A should be what kind of number? A positive number or a negative number?
Positive.
Mm-hmm. Very good, a positive number. And if you notice the number we came up with a positive 1 over 12, right? So those are a little like realizing that the graph is opening up and that my number A is positive. Though, like knowing those things are going to be indicators that I'm doing this problem the right way. Okay. So guys, just a heads up, if you're doing a problem like this and you know that your graph is opening up and your number A is negative, that tells you, okay, you know what? I made a mistake somewhere. Maybe when I squared my negative 6, instead of putting a positive 36, I put a negative 36. Or maybe like right here, when I added 3 to both sides, instead of putting a positive 3 for whatever reason, maybe I still put a negative 3. Something like that, okay? And vice versa. If the graph is opening down, right? If the graph is opening down like this, and there we go. If the graph is opening down like that, and your number A should be negative. So if it isn't, again, that tells you, hey, you know what? Maybe I made a mistake somewhere. So this is a very good question. I'm glad you asked it. I think it kind of at least brings some more concepts into play here. Good, good, good. Any other questions anybody has about anything? You can just speak up.
Yes, I do. It's for the review.
Uh-huh.
It's number 42.
Okay, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to get to number 42, but before I get to 42, are there any other questions? This way we can kind of go like in order, but I'm definitely going to do 42. Anything before we get to 42? 15. Okay, so let's scroll down, guys, until we hit number 15. And here we go. Okay, so guys, number 15 here says, find the polynomial of degree 3 with real coefficients and zeros of -3, -1, and 4, for which f of -2 is equal to -24. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do here, if it says it's degree 3, that tells me, guys, that my problem, the highest x power I'm going to have is going to be an x to the third. Okay, so the second thing it's telling me is that we have zeros. So the zeros mean that x equals -3, x equals -1, and x equals 4 all make this polynomial equal to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite these zeros here as now factors. Okay. So what I mean by factors is if I were to take this -3 and bring it back across the equal sign, I'd end up with an x plus 3. And if I brought that -1 back across the equal sign, I'd end up with an x plus 1. And if I brought this +4 back across the equal sign, I'd end up with an x minus 4. And just to kind of show you what I mean, remember what it said? So I ended up with an x minus 4, right? And it said that x is equal to 4 was a 0. That means if I set this guy here equal to 0, when I move that 4 over, it becomes a +4, right? Which is exactly what we had right here. So that's why I'm saying I'm writing them now as factors, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start writing out my polynomial. So my polynomial, guys, is always going to have some kind of a coefficient, kind of like the way we were doing the a in the problem that we did before. So it's going to look like this: a, and then x plus 3, x minus 1. I'm sorry, plus 1, and x minus 4. Okay. Now there was another piece of information that they gave us. And the information that they gave us was that f of -2 was equal to -24. So what that means is that for the x's, I'm going to plug in a -2 everywhere I have an x. And where the f of x is, I'm going to put the number -24. So I'm going to write it over here on the side where I have some more room. So I'm going to write -24 equals a. Now remember, I'm plugging in the number -2 everywhere I have my x. So -2 plus 3, -2 plus 1, and -2 minus 4. Okay. Just get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. All right. Okay, so I'm going to try to solve for, I'm going to try to solve for a from here. So -24 equals, I'm going to leave my a alone for right now. Okay, so I'm going to do this part here. -2 plus 3. -2 plus 3 is just the number 1. -2 plus 1 is a -1. And -2 minus 4 is a -6. Now, I'm going to multiply those three numbers together. So 1 times -1 times -6 is a +6 with an a. And just like we did before, we're going to solve for a by dividing both sides by 6. And I'm coming up with a equals a -4. Okay. So now, the next thing I'm going to do, y'all, just like we did in the problem that we did before, I'm going to come back to, let's see, I'm going to come back right here. And now that I know that a is -4, I'm going to plug that number in right over here, okay? So let me write this out. F of x equals a -4 and then we had an x plus 3, an x plus 1, oops, and an x minus 4, right? Now, I'm gonna zoom in real quick, guys, here where my answer part is. And do you see right here where it says do not factor? Well, the trouble is here at this step, what we have is we have it in its factored form. So the next part that I'm going to show you guys is going to be, it's going to be kind of like the tedious part, the part that's going to take some time, but I hope it's going to make some sense, okay? So again, guys, as I'm going through this here, if you have a question, just speak up. Don't worry about interrupting me. Just tell me, you know, can I go over that part again, or can I slow it down, or do whatever it is, okay? I want to make sure you guys are good. All right, so I'm going to go -4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and multiply these together first, okay? So x and x is going to give me an x squared. X times 1 is going to give me a 1x. 3 times x will give me a 3x. And 3 times 1 will give me a 3. And then I'm going to have my x minus 4. 4. And now I have x squared. We can combine those together to give us a 4x plus 3. And then here we have an x minus 4. And let's see. Tell you what, we'll just go ahead and go. We'll start distributing again. We're going to go 1 and 2. So I'm going to leave that -4 over here for right now. So x squared times this x is my x to the 3rd. X squared times a -4 is a -4x squared. Okay. Now I've used this one. I don't need to use it anymore. 4 times x is a positive 4x squared. And 4x times -4 is a -16x. And just like we did before, we've used this one. We don't need to use it anymore. And then I'm going to go 3 times x is a plus 3x. And 3 times -4 is a -12. Okay, so now I'm going to worry about combining like terms, y'all. So in here, look, -4x squared and positive 4x squared cancel each other out. So I just got an x to the 3rd. And then these two right here, a -16x and a plus 3x, it's going to leave me with a -13x. And then I still have this -12. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and just distribute this -4 all the way through. Okay. So look, this is -4x to the 3rd. A -4 times a -13 is a positive 52 with an x. And then a -4 times a -12 is a positive 48. And this right here is my answer. See, I think I heard something in the chat. Let me double check. Yeah, so Jessica, you're right. The f of x is the same exact thing as the y. So I'm glad you brought that up, because what I want you to notice is, let's see, like right here, let me clean this up a little bit, because I know it's a little messy. There's a lot of stuff in this problem. Here we go. Okay, so right here where we have that f of -2 equals -24. So this here is the x, and this value right here is the y. Yeah, and so I have to be real careful as I'm going through that to make sure that, you know, as I'm doing my problem, I'm understanding which one goes where. But I agree, it can be a little tricky. And so guys, I know that there was another question, but there's another problem very similar to 15 that I want us to do, because I want to point out the similarities between number 15 and this other question. So give me one quick second. I'm going to look for it. I just don't remember where it is. And I'm going to find it for you guys. Here we go. It is number 18. Okay. So I want to point something out here, guys, about number 15 and number 18. And number 18 says, find a polynomial of least possible degree having the graph shown. Okay. So I want to do this one because I want to point out that this problem, y'all, is very similar to number 15. So the difference in 15 and 18 is 18 gives me the graph, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, y'all, I want to find my zeros, okay? My zeros are the same thing as my x-intercepts. So look, there's one right here, x equals -6. This one right here. There's another one here, x equals 5. And there's another one here, x equals 7. Okay? So guys, just like we did in 15, once I know what my zeros are, I'm now going to write my factors. Okay? So I'm going to start writing this out like this. F of x equals, and I'm going to put that a because I know there's going to be some number here. And let's write out the 3 factors that we're going to have. Okay? So look, if it's x equals -6, when I bring the 6 back, it's going to change signs to a +6. Okay? The same thing with the 5 and the same thing with the 7. The signs are going to change. So that's going to be a -5. And this one here is going to be a -7. Okay? All right, now that we've done that, guys, remember what Jessica said before, that the f of x is the same thing as the y. So when I look at this point here, that point is written in the form x and y. So that's telling me that x is 0, and that's telling me that y is 105. So since f of x is the same thing as y, I'm going to put 105 right here. Okay? And then since x is 0, I'm going to come back to this part of the problem, and everywhere I have the letter x, I'm going to put the number 0. So I'm going to put a O plus 6, a 0 minus 5, and a 0 minus 7. Okay. And I'm going to write 105 equals, let's see, a 0 plus 6 is 6. That is a -5. And this here is a -7. Okay. We're almost done, y'all. Okay, I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to multiply those numbers together. So let me see, 6 times 5 times 7. I'm coming up with 210. That's what I'm coming up with here, 210 with an A, okay? Now, my last step is just divide by 210. Okay? And guys, for this problem here, I am going to go ahead and reduce my fraction. So I don't know, I know I can at least divide them both by 5. So this is 42, and 105 divided by 5 is 21. And I can divide both those by 21 again. So that's a 1/2 equals A. Okay. All right. So guys, if you remember what we did in the previous problem, in number 15, once we found our A number, we came back right here, and the first thing we did is we plugged it in. So we wrote 1/2 x plus 6, x minus 5, and x minus 7, right? And if you look at this part here, this part says, let's go ahead and write it in factored form. Well, this is factored form. So the question that I'd like to ask you guys is, number one, do you guys agree that the way I did number 18 was the same way I did number 15? Does it look like we did the same kind of steps? Yeah? Okay. Now, the second thing I want to ask you guys, between number 15 and number 18, so I'm going to scroll back to number 15 real quick. So here is number 15, right? And I want to show you in 15, sorry, I'm going to get my pen freezes up a lot, guys. So in 15, or I'll put it this way, in 18, we stopped here. But in this one, I had to keep doing all this to get to that step, right? So the next question I want to ask you is between 15 and 18, which question seems easier for you guys to do? Do you think 15 is easier, or do you think 18 is easier because once I got that A, I could just stop and put it right here? Which one seems easier for y'all? 18, right? 18 seems easier because there's less work for me to do. So guys, now I'm going to ask you a third question. You didn't even think you were going to get a quiz today, right? But here's the third question. I put one of those questions on the test. Now that you know which one you feel is easier, which is the one do you think I put on the test? And guys, I'm not trying to trick you here, okay? Which one do you think I put on the test? Something more like 15 or something more like 18? Anybody know? Anybody want to be brave and guess? What do you think? 18, there you go. You got it. There you go. Yeah, exactly. I put something more like 18 because the whole point, guys, between 15 and 18 is can you understand the process of what it is we're trying to do? If you have some zeros, can you write out the function? 15 just makes it more difficult in the sense that you have to multiply all that stuff out and everything, and I'm not so concerned about that, right? So yes, I did ask you something more like 18. And guys, just to let you know, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit again because I know I'm zoomed out pretty far, but I want to point out I'm just going to help you set up number 19, and then I'll let you do number 19 on your own. But number 19 is the same type of problem, okay? Now, there is one thing that I need to keep in mind for number 19, okay? And so I'm going to set it up just like we did before. So remember we said the first thing we need to do, we need to find the zeros, right? So I know the first one is right here at x equals -5. And the second one is right here at x equals 3. Now, the one thing I want to point out, when you look at 3, and I'm going to try to make my pen thick here so you can see what I'm getting at. When I'm following the graph right here, you see how it hits it and it bounces off and then it comes back to the top? Anytime it does that little bounce, that means that that number is going to occur 2 times. Okay? So if you see, and I don't remember, guys, which one I put on the test. It's either something like 18 or it's something like 19. Okay? But the one thing I really wanted to point out was when you have the bounce, you're going to have that factor or that 0 occurring 2 times. So then remember, once we did that, then the second thing we said is, you know what, now that we know that, well then what are my factors? And my factors, remember, if I bring that 5 over, it becomes a +5. If I bring this 3 over, it's a -3. And if I bring that over, it's another -3, right? And then I could do the same thing and write it out like f of x equals a, x plus 5. Now, guys, at this step, you have 2 options. You can write it like this if you want to, or you can write it like that. Why? Because they both mean the same thing, right? And then at this step, the only other thing you'd have to do is we'd come back to my picture, right? And I'm going to kind of erase that thick part right there. And I'm going to do a little zoom, 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 zoom. And when I get to this part right here, I'm going to say, look, remember, that's in the form x and y. So x is 0 and y is 9. So then the only thing I would do here is I'd put a 9 equals a. I put a 0 plus 5. I put a 0 minus 3 squared. And I'll give you a hint. Okay, so at this step right here, y'all, we'll probably finish it off. Let me ask you guys a question, and don't be shy. Yes, very good, Jessica. You said it bounces off twice. Perfect. I'm just looking at the chat right now. In doing this 9 equals a, 5, and then -3 squared, y'all remember back in, y'all probably did this in maybe 8th or 9th grade. Some of you might have done it in 7th grade, but we had something called the order of operations. what would you do first? Would you do 5 times negative 3, or would you do negative 3 squared first? Anybody know? What would be the first step I need to do on that right side? Should I go 5 times negative 3 and then square it? Should I go negative? Yeah, the square first. Excellent, Vivian. Perfect, right? So you'd say, okay, well, negative 3 squared is a positive 9, and then that's going to give me a 45a, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 45, and we're going to end up with a is 1 over 5, right? And then now, guys, at this step, the only thing we would do is we'd come back right here, and we'd have our problem, right? So again, what I really want to emphasize, y'all, is the problems you're gonna see tomorrow. Like I said, I took and I'm gonna come back real quick, guys. I'm gonna look real quick at the oh my God, what is it? At the review or the email that I sent you. So I told you that the review has 42 questions, and I took 20 of them directly from the test, right? They came directly out of the test, y'all. And so the only thing that's going to be slightly different, right, is tomorrow. Whether you have like 19 or whether you have 18, the problems are going to look exactly the same. The only thing that's going to be different for you guys, let me get my eraser here, is these numbers right here are probably going to be different, right? But how you're going to do it? The same exact way, right? You're going to do the process the same way. So we did number 18, and then when we did number 18, if you notice, our numbers in 19 were slightly different, and then we have to remember about the bouncing off and that occurs twice. But then we knew, okay, write this one down 2 times, right? Don't forget to write it twice, which we did, and that number was different. But I can still do the same type of problem, right? So I really just wanted to emphasize that to you all, that the questions you're going to see tomorrow, guys, are going to be the same questions you have here. I'm really trying to make this process as direct for you guys as I possibly can, okay? So there's no surprises, no like, oh my God, I never seen this before. Everything came directly out of the review. And this, these are, I think, are really great problems. And guys, I taught, I think I might have told you guys in the beginning of the semester, I don't know. But I taught my first class in 1997. And I don't know if you guys were even around in 1997. Some of you may have been, some of you may haven't. But I've been doing this for a long time. And so I'm trying to really get, I think, the ideas that are important so that those of you who do go on to the next course, that you are going to be ready for that. And those of you who aren't, well, hey, you picked up something new. Maybe you'll use it at one point, maybe you won't, but at least, get something out of it, okay? So excellent questions. Guys, I do want to get to 42 because I know that was a question, and then we can come back and look at any other ones too, but I don't want to make the person who's waiting for 42, I don't want to have them have to wait for a long time before we get there, okay? So let's see, 42. Oh, was it 42? Or maybe was it 41 that somebody asked me? I don't remember. So 42, I did pull it out, guys. Let's see.
Yeah, 41, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 41. Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so let's do 41. I pulled 42, guys, because it wasn't exactly the same as ones that we had done, so I just got rid of 42. But let's definitely do 41. Okay, and then guys, once I do 41, those of you who have any other questions, please let me know, and I'll be happy to go over any of them you might have. Okay. Okay, so 41 here says a sample of 500 grams of radioactive lead-210 decays to plutonium-210 according to this function. Okay, so they give me an equation here that I'm going to use. So they give me this piece, and I definitely need to use it. Where T is the time in years, and then it says find the amount of radioactive lead remaining after 3 years, 6 years, 20 years, and then part D says find the half-life. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the equation that we have. A of t there we go, equals 500 e to the negative 0.032 with a t. And what's important, guys, is that in this problem, t is the number of years, okay? So part A says how much is left after 3 years. Okay? So guys, if t stands for the time in, if t stands for the time in years, then for part A, really what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to find A of 3. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to walk you all through the process, y'all, and I'm going to use my calculator. And the one thing that I want to emphasize here is that whether you're using like an actual calculator that maybe you might have from high school, or you're using that calculator app that I sent you guys that I use, the process and how you enter this in is going to be exactly the same, okay? So what I'm going to do here, let me stop sharing this, and I'm going to pull up my calculator. Okay, and here we go. All right, so I got my calculator going, and okay, so I already have the screen clear. So the first thing I'm going to type in, guys, is 500. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the little times button. And if you notice, there was an E there. Okay, so guys, the way you're going to get to that E, I want you to look right here where the number 4 is. If you look directly to the left of the number 4, there's an LN, and right above the LN, there's a little letter E. That's the function I'm trying to get to. So what I'm going to get to that is I'm going to hit my second, and then the LN button, and I want you to notice, at least on my calculator, it's opening up parentheses. So now I'm going to type in my exponent, which was a negative 0.032, and we're multiplying that number by 3. I'm going to close off my parentheses, and I'm going to hit enter, and the number that I'm coming up with is 454.23. So I'm going to stop sharing my calculator real quick, and let's see, I'm going to come back to my formula sheet, or my review, I'm sorry. And the number we came up with for A of 3 was 454.23, yes. 454.23. And right here, it's telling me round to the nearest integer. So 454.23 would just be 454, okay? Now, guys, I want to point something out. I'm going to do this also for 6 years and for 20 years, because the only thing I'm going to do now differently is instead of multiplying that exponent by 3, I'm now going to multiply it by 6, and I'm going to multiply it by 20. So I want to show you something that you may know, maybe you don't know, but I'm going to show you anyway so that you can use it if you need to. Oh my goodness, here we go. Let's get my calculator going. And here we go. Okay. So remember, the second time I'm going to do this, I'm going to, where that number 3 used to be, let's see, there we go. Where that number 3 used to be right here, I'm going to change that 3 to a 6. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to hit my second, and I go down here where it says enter, let's see, right here where it says enter. If you look right above it, it says entry. When I type that in, it types in exactly what I wrote the first time. And then I can use my little left arrow button right here to go back and change that 3 to a 6. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm coming up with 412.65. Now remember, the idea is I'm supposed to round to the nearest integer, so I know this one's going to be 413, right? And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go second, entry, and now I'm going to change that 6 to a 20. And I'm going to close off my parentheses. I'm going to hit enter. And this one here is 263.64. So for this answer right here, I'm going to use 413. And for this one, I'm going to use 264. Okay. So let me stop sharing that. And let me come back over here. And we said we were going to put 413 and 264. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do part D. Part D is asking us about the half-life. Okay. So when we're looking for the half-life, we're looking for the amount of time it takes to reach half of what we have. What I mean by that is my equation was A of t equals 500 e to the negative 0.032 with a t. Okay. So half-life says, how long is it going to take for this 500 to reach 250? Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do here, I'm trying to solve for this guy right here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to divide both sides by 500. Okay, 250 divided by 500, y'all, is 0.5. Okay. 0.5, just in case, think about it this way, 0.5, same thing as 1/2, right? This is what we're calling it the half-life. Now, what I need to do is I need to solve for t. And the way I'm going to solve for t is I'm going to take something called the natural logarithm on both sides of the equation. So now this is going to be the natural log of 0.5. Now the natural log and the e are inverse operations of each other. So they cancel each other out. And this just leaves me with a negative 0.032 with a t. And since we are trying to solve for the letter t, I'm going to divide both sides by the negative 0.032. Now, guys, I want you to notice something. I haven't used my calculator yet, right? Okay. Now, this last step is when I'm going to use my calculator. So this right here is exactly what I'm going to type in on my calculator. And guys, remember, we're looking for t. We're looking for time, and time is amount in years. So that's telling me that whatever number I'm going to come up with, it has to be a positive number, right? It couldn't be negative because it's talking about time in years, okay? So again, just a quick reminder. Let's see. This right here is what I'm going to type into my calculator. Okay, so let me stop doing this part and let me pull up my calculator so you can see what I'm going to do. And yes, okay. So first thing I'm going to do, y'all, I'm going to clear my screen and I want to type in the ln of 0.5. So here's my ln button directly to the left of number 4, ln. Notice how it opened up parentheses for me. So I'm going to type in 0.5. And I'm going to go ahead and close them off and divide by a negative 0.032. And I'm going to hit enter. And again, we are coming up with a positive number, which is good. That's what we're supposed to get. And I'm coming up with 21.6608. And so let me stop sharing my calculator. And let me come back to my review guide. And when I come over to part D, which is right here, it says the half-life is about how much, and it's asking me to go ahead and round it to 2 decimal places. And so the number that we came up with was 21.66. The number after the 6 was a 0, so 21.66 is all we really need, right? And so that was number 41. So excellent question. I hope, guys, is that we did 41, that at least parts A, B, and C seemed relatively easy to do because all we were really doing is just using our calculator to evaluate that. Part D, there is a little bit more work in the sense that I have to kind of, you know, if it's asking me for the half-life, just I really want to emphasize this, y'all. Anytime it's asking me for the half-life, whatever this number is right here, you're going to put half of it. Okay, so if let me see. So if this number here was a 600, over here you would have put 300, right? Whatever it happens to be. But if it's asking you for half-life, whatever number you have initially in your equation. So let me scroll back over here. Whatever number you have there, when it's asking you for half-life, you're going to put half that amount over here, okay? So again, whatever number it is, just find half of it. Half is what you go right there. Excellent question. So guys, I know we skipped down to 41, but does anybody have any other questions about any of the other problems in the homework? I'm sorry, in the review guide, and we can definitely go over any of those. I just didn't want whoever asked me 41. I didn't want them to have to wait too long if they didn't have any other questions. Anything that you guys might have? About anything? Hold on. Yes, definitely. So guys, I just put a little question in the chat. So I'm going to let you look through that, and I'm going to scroll to get to number 27. And I'll tell you what, after we go through whatever other problems we're going to do tonight, or you can put it in whenever you want. But after we go through some of these questions, let me know how you feel, okay? Okay, so 27 right here says, find the future value in interest earned if $8,704.56 is invested for 7 years at 6%. Part A says compounded semi-annually, and Part B says continuously. Definitely, we can definitely do this one. So guys, what the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing that page with you guys because I want to share the formula sheet, okay? So here I am on my formula sheet, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to look at these two formulas right here, the compound interest and the continuous interest, okay? And so for part A, I'm going to use the compound one, and for part B, I'm going to use the continuous one, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is on 27, and I'm going to stop sharing that, but I'm just using the formula sheet, guys, okay? For 27, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the formula here, okay? So I told y'all for 27, I was going to use the first formula, which is this one right here, okay? So in doing a problem like 27, there's a couple of pieces of information we need to know. We need to know the P, the R, the N, and the T. So P is the amount of money that we're investing. So that's going to be the 87, That's going to be the, oh my gosh. It gets annoying, guys, when this pen freezes up. 8704.56, okay? The T, in this case, is the 7 years. My interest rate, my R, 6% as a decimal, which is 0.06. And then the N is the number of times it gets compounded. So if it gets compounded semi-annually, that means it gets compounded twice a year, okay? And so now that I have those values, for part A, what I'm gonna do, y'all, I'm just gonna do a little plug and chug, okay? So we're gonna go A equals P, which was the 8704.56, and then 1 plus our rate was a 0.06 divided by N, which was a 2. And then I want you to look at my exponent. My exponent is taking the values N and T. So I'm going to take this number here and that number there, and I got to multiply them together. 7 times 2 is going to leave me with 14. Okay. Now, guys, you really don't need to do much more calculating other than just using your calculator, okay? So I'm going to show you on my calculator, and what I'm going to do, y'all, I'm going to type in this exactly as I see it, okay? So let me stop sharing that, and I'm going to pull up my calculator again so you guys can see what I'm going to do. So let me get my calculator going, and here we go. So let me turn it on. Let me clear my screen. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the 8704.56, right? And then if you remember that after that, guys, we had some parentheses. So I'm going to put a parentheses, and I'm going to type in exactly what I had, which was 1 plus 0.06. That was being divided by 2. Close off my parentheses, and then that was being raised to the power of 14. Okay? And just like that, I'm going to hit enter. And so remember what we're coming up with here. We're investing money, right? So whatever number that I come up with, guys, and thinking about it in terms of money, I'm going to round everything to the nearest penny because I'm dealing with money here, right? So this would be $13,166.43. Okay, so let me stop sharing this part right here, and let me come back to my review guide. And the number we said we had was $13,166.43. $13,166.43, right? And then if I just kind of scroll back over here to my left, look what it's telling me, round to the nearest hundred. Hundreds is the same thing as pennies. So 13,166.43. Okay. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Put that in the wrong spot. That number needs to go right here. 13,166.43. Okay, now to keep working with part A, it says, how do I find the interest earned? Well, so think about it this way. After 7 years, we end up with $13,166.43, right? How much money did we start off to begin with? We started off with $87.04.56. So the amount of money that we gained is all going to be interest. So if I want to find my interest, I'm just going to take this number here and subtract that number right there, okay? So I'm just going to do that real quick on my calculator. I'm going to subtract the 87.04.56 that we started off with. And again, to the nearest penny, this is giving me 44.61.87. 44.61.87. Okay. And again, all I'm doing here, y'all, is just subtracting those two numbers right there. Okay. All right. Now let's go ahead and do part B. So for part B, y'all, I'm going to use the second formula. The second formula is this one right here, the Pert formula, right? Because it looks like it's saying Pert. And so the way I'm going to do this part is my P is still the 8704.56. The E is just like the E that we did in problem number 41. And then our R and our T. Remember, my rate was a 0.06 times my T, which is a 7. Okay. And guys, just like we did before, I'm going to type this part in directly into my calculator. Okay. So let me stop sharing that part and let me pull up the calculator so we can see what we're going to do. Okay, so guys, just to let you know, here's when I did my subtraction, right? So that's how I came up with the 44.61. And again, I rounded it to 2 decimals, so 87 cents, right? Okay, so the way I'm going to do this one, I'm going to go 8704.56. And then remember, we had the times and we had an E. So I'm going to go second, ln, here's my E, right? And then we had 0.06 times 7, because that was in my exponent. I'm going to close that off. And so the number that I'm coming up with here now is $13,248. If I round to the nearest penny, guys, it's going to be 0.01, right? Because there's a 5 directly to the left of it. So 13,248.01. So let me come back over here. And we said, we said 13, or is it 248.01? Yeah. 248.01, right? And then, again, now, how do we find our interest? How do we find our interest? Well, we're going to subtract again. So I'm going to take this number here, and I'm going to subtract the 8704.56. So I'll just do that on my calculator real quick. Mine is 8704.56. And I'm coming up with 45.43 and 45 cents. 45.43, and I forgot how many pennies. 45 cents. There we go. And so, excellent question. I think that was a very good problem to ask. I'm glad you asked it. And guys, I'm glad that you're asking these questions, because I want to point out also, like when we did the very first question that I think Thomas asked me, I'm glad that he asked me that first one, because I'm able to go to the formula sheet and show you where that formula is. And the same thing for 27, right? When we get to a question like this, we can go back to the formula sheet and we can see exactly where that formula is, so that we know how to use the formula sheet. So these are excellent, excellent questions you guys are asking. Anybody else have any other questions about anything that you want me to go over? Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do this. So in that question that I asked on a level of 1 to 10, so 1 is feeling like really scared, like you don't think you're going to do well. 10 feeling like, man, I'm going to ace this test. I feel, Jessica, you feel like you're in group 3. Excellent. Good. Very good. Anybody else feeling like they're in group 3? I mean, guys, you don't have to answer. I mean, I'm just trying to get an idea of where you feel. If you don't feel comfortable answering that, that's okay. But I don't want you to feel embarrassed. Okay. More importantly, I want you to be honest with yourself, right? In one of my other classes, somebody was like, sir, do you think I can still pass a class? I only missed 2 assignments. And I was like, yeah, you can definitely, with 2 assignments, you should be able to do okay. And then in that same class, somebody had missed, like, guys, I think they did 4 assignments throughout the whole semester. And it's like, can you pass? And the question the way I phrased it was, what's going to be different now than it was from January until, April 19th or 20th, right? What's going to change? So those of you who feel like you're in group 1 or group 2, the best thing I can tell you to do is go back tonight, watch some videos. Remember, I'm going to check one thing real quick, guys, because I don't remember, and I need to look at it real quick. So I'm going to just I'm going to look at some stuff to see. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so the main thing I really want to emphasize is, all the assignments that you have in my math lab right now are due by tomorrow night at 6:30. So if you're feeling like you might be in group 1 or group 2, I would definitely encourage you to take the test tomorrow at 6:30. And between today and tomorrow at 6:30, go to the YouTube channel, right? The YouTube playlist that I have, watch some of those videos, see if there's things that you can pick up on, okay? And guys, I really try to make the videos so that they correlate directly to the problems that you have in your homework, right? So, like, I'm going to make this up. If you're going through the review in the middle of the night or tomorrow, whatever, and you're trying to figure out, like, oh, how do I do problem number how do I do problem number like 32? Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how you would do something like 32. So guys, I'm going to stop sharing this real quick. And again, I'm doing this, you guys, so that you feel better. Give me one quick second. Here we go. Okay, so let's see. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Go. Okay, so what I would do if I was you guys, especially again if you're feeling a little shaky. Okay, so I want to say that yes, this is coming up now. So I went to the playlist, right? And I'll give you an idea. 4.3 will show you exactly how to do problem number 32 in the review guide, right? And so again, if I'm going to do this real quick. So let me stop sharing this screen here. Let me come back to problem number 32, right? So problem number 32 says, use properties of logarithms to rewrite the expression, okay? So I see it right here. And then I'm going to stop sharing that. I'm going to come back to my playlist, right? And I told you it was section 4.3. I'm pretty sure it was. And
section 4.3 is logarithms. So we have something called logarithms.
I'm just trying to see if I can find it.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay. So guys, I want you to look right here in the middle of the page where it says that log base 2 of 6x over y. That's very similar to the problem that we just had, right? So again, if you this part here, then you'll be able to see exactly how to do a problem like 32, okay? So, and guys, those of you who've been watching the videos, you know, I'm trying to talk you through the process as if I'm there with you. But if you feel like that's something that you think you can do, that's definitely something I would encourage you to do. You know, do that between tonight and tomorrow at 6:30, so you can pick up on some of those ideas, okay? So, before I do anything else, does anybody else have any other questions you want me to go over? Because I'm more than happy to go over any other questions. Guys, if you don't have any other questions, you're free to log off. But if you want to just hang out and watch me do another problem or two, you know, I'm definitely good with something like that. Any other questions about anything? All right, so guys, we'll go ahead and end this session here. And like I said, you know, I hope more of you feel by tomorrow at 6:30, I hope more of you feel like you're in group 3, even if you're not at the 10, but you're more at the 7, that's still good, right? So just take your time. You know, the test is going to be timed, guys, but I'm going to give you like 3.5 hours. And remember, it's 20 questions that come directly out of these 41, okay? So, you know, make sure you know how to do these 41 problems, because if you know how to do these 41, then you'll definitely be able to do the 20 questions that you're going to see tomorrow. And guys, you already know that you're going to have a problem like 18 or 19, right? And we did those tonight. I'll even give you another hint. You're going to have a problem like number 1, and we did that one today too. And I'll give you another hint. You're going to have a problem like 41, and we did that one tonight too, right? And I'll give you another hint. You're going to have a problem like 27, and we did that one tonight too, right? So that should already give you, if you're feeling in the group 1 or 2, hopefully that gives you a little bit of more confident feeling, because we've done some of those questions there, okay? So anyway, thank you all for showing up. I hope you guys are doing well. Guys, at any point in time, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me. You know, I'm here. I know this is difficult being in this kind of environment, and I think one of the really hard parts is just deciding when are you going to get down to doing some of the work. And I think it's hard to decide, like, okay, you know what, let me do some math today, because that's not something that a lot of us think about doing. But you know, if you want to get through the class, that's something that you kind of have to do, okay? So there's still 4 weeks left. We still have some time. Guys, just to give you a heads up, I'm going to stop recording real quick, but just to give you a heads up,